Today's math enrichment is going to be looking at distance in between positive and negative numbers. So we had a little preview on that this week when we were doing absolute values, and you'll see that in just a second here. And so we're going to be looking at a starting point and then an ending point. All right, so what I put on your slides here are the two most common ways to look at the use of negative to positive numbers, and that is with a thermometer and a number line. All right, so this is like telling a little story. All right, so our temperature is 7 below. All right, so in this case, there's not really negatives on this thermometer, but it would be under 0, right? So it would be here. And now we're going to end on 9 degrees. All right, so this is the thermometer. So they're basically asking you how much did the temperature increase for that to happen. All right, this might be a little bit easier to see here. So here's your starting point on your number line. All right, and then our ending point is 9. All right, so the question is, how far is it in between? And this is where using that strategy we looked at for the distance is very helpful, and that had to do with absolutes. All right, so we're going to find the absolute of -7, and that's going to help us. All right, and the absolute came from the distance between the negative number and 0, so that's 7. And now you're going to add it to the distance from 0 to 9. All right, so the answer is 16. All right, that is how you calculate the distance between a positive and negative number. All right, so be careful, because some people are going to see the -7 and the 9, and then they're going to subtract the 2, thinking that's subtraction, and that's not it. All right, so you have to understand the sense of the problem. You're going back to 0 and then over to 9. All right, so there's an example. Let's go to another slide here. All right, so our starting point is 5, and our ending point is -2. All right, so here we go. Here's my starting point, and my ending point is -2. All right, so we're asking how far away is it? All right, so I can use my number line, and I can do a jump, right, to go from 5 to 0. All right, so that's 5. And then from 0 to -2, that would be 2. All right, so I would add the 2 together. The other way you could think about it is you find the absolute of the negative number, all right, which is the absolute value of -2 equals 2. And now I add that to my other point. All right, so that's one strategy to do it, but I want you guys to understand where that's coming from, not just to do it for all the numbers. All right, another example. All right, let's look at this one. My starting point is -10. And my ending point is -1. All right, so it's important to think this out, because if I'm using absolutes now, is it going to make any sense? All right, so if I do absolute is 10 here, absolute is 1 here, then add them together, I'm going to get a distance of 11. And let's just take a look here. I'm going from -10 to -1, so I'm staying on the same side. So I'm not crossing over 0, so I don't have to use absolutes. I'm just finding the difference now of two negative numbers. All right, which would be the same as just subtracting the 2 of them. Okay, so it would be 9 jumps on the number line, so it is a distance of 9. So please remember that if you have the same sign and you're finding distance, you just subtract the 2. This is something you guys have been doing for years with positive numbers, right? So if you had +2 and +8, you would subtract the 2 for the difference, right? Because that's what you've always been taught. That's distance in between. All right, so it's the same thing when you're on the negative side as well. All right, if you have two negative numbers and trying to find the distance, just subtract the 2. Don't look at the negatives, and that's where it's going to be. All right, let's look at another example here. On this one, our starting point is -8, and our ending point is +8. All right, so we're jumping now from -8 to 0. So again, find that absolute of the negative number that's positive, and now we're going from 0 to 8, which is already shown here, right? So what would that be? A jump of 8 the first time, plus a jump of 8 the second time is 8 plus 8 equals 16. All right, so that's what we're doing. So I want you guys to think about this, and I've thrown in some other examples here to see if you guys are focused or not, and you'll see that in just a second as I jump over now to your assignment. All right, so you're going to see problems like this on your Google Sheet. You're going to have 20 problems. So find the distance in between for all negative numbers, write the absolute underneath. I just said that so you guys could see that strategy to its full effect. So that'll help you, all right? So I'm going from -5 to 12. If I'm thinking of that number line now, All right, the absolute for -5 means I'm going from -5 to 0, and now I'm going from 0 to 12. So if I write the absolute right underneath, now I can just add it to the 12 there on the positive side, and now I have a distance of 17. All right, so here, the distance between 2 and -8. Okay, there's a couple of ways you could do it. You could start with 2 and then go to the negative side, okay? Or you could do it the opposite, all right? It doesn't matter, but you need to think it through, all right? So if I'm starting at +2, I'm thinking of my number line here with a 0, okay? So if I'm starting at 2, I'm here, and now I'm going to -8 on that side, all right? So I would have to go from 2 to 0, and then 0 to -8. Or I could start at -8 and go to 0, then to 2. So it doesn't matter, but if you do it this way, okay, so putting the absolute value of -8, then I add it to my other positive number, right? Then I have 10. All right, how about this one? So I'm going from 5 to -11. All right, if I start at the negative number now, so think of that on your number line. So absolute value of 11 to get back to 0 to add to 5, that will get you to 16. All right, next one. So I'm going from -3 to -9. Do I need to put the absolute value? No, because I'm going from one negative number to another negative number. So how far away is 3 negative from 9 negative? It's 6 jumps away. Not 6 negative jumps away, 6 jumps away. All right, so that's how we do that one. All right, let's go to another one there. So you'll see negative to negative again. So what do I do? I subtract. Okay, so 8 away on the negative side. All right, I don't need to find, if I could do that, I could find the absolutes like I listed up above, right? But now I'm finding the difference between the two. All right, how about this one? If I'm going from 2 to 12, what is my distance in between? That's good old-fashioned second grade subtraction, right? 12 minus 2, so that equals 10. How about this one? If I'm going from -3 to 10, all right, so if I put my absolute underneath, all right, that's from -3 to 0. Now I'm going from 0 to 10, all right, so I can add the two numbers together. I have 13. All right, how about this one? Going from 5 to -11, all right, I would start with the negative number. The absolute value of -11 is 11, so that takes me to 0. And then I go from 0 to 5, so we'd be adding the two of those together. All right, let's do 2 more. All right, so I'm going from -10 to 10. It's an absolute value of 10 to get back to 0. Then I'm adding it to the 10 that I have, so an answer of 20. All right, and this one, all right, so going from 2 to -8. All right, so let's start with my negative number. I'm finding the absolute value to get back to 0. 8 plus 2, I have 10. All right, so that's how we do it. All right, the only problems we're going to have is if we speed through this and try to do it really quickly and we're not thinking of it, then we're going to make mistakes. This is really, really important because once you guys have bigger numbers, later on in junior high, when you have a number like this, -35 plus 96, you have to understand what to do there. So you find the absolute value, right? The distance in between to go from 35 to 0. And you would then adjust that for 96, all right? So there's a lot of different ways to do it. Another way you could do that is you could rewrite it as 96 minus 35. But the whole idea is you have to understand what the problem is saying there, all right? So when you're adding two numbers together, if you have a negative number, it's going to decrease your positive number, all right? So that's what's coming. But this is just the basics. This might be very, very simple for some of you guys, but again, it's building your number sense. And again, that absolute value, putting it underneath, is going to help you understand the distance from the negative number to 0. Okay, and then those ones, the last example here, when I had the negative, all right, so if I went from 20 to 11, I can rewrite both the absolutes down below. But just remember now, I'm not adding them together because they're in the same quadrant, the same negative sign, all right? So it's going from one to the other, just like going from positive 20 to positive 11, and you would just subtract the two there. All right, any questions, let me know. I'm available to help you guys today. Use that number line example if it helps, thermometer if need be, and go at it.